We're ready to start the game. Now, I did make one change here. We took out the engineer unit here. So there's no engineer there with Marius. Now, everything under a civis unit means it's inside the city, and that's what you need to do for supply, especially. I don't think you want to get caught in a city if you don't have to, get laid siege to, but, I've been practicing a little bit, and I found out that the civis units are pretty durable. And to lay siege to a city does take a while, and the city can last a while, especially if you try to storm it, because no numeric numbers affect it. I don't think I explained this. Like when you play the scenarios, even though there's events, revolts, invasions, migrations going on, client states, activating, the scenario is still based on certain events in Roman history. So in my game here, my scenario, I still want that. I want you to be able to say you're Julius Caesar and you conquered Gaul just like him, or you defeated Pompey. I want that to occur. So in this game, even though we're going to play a continuous scenario from 107 to 200, and there can be events taking place that you're unaware of, I'm still going to steer it down a path of Roman history. I mean, Pompey could beat Caesar in the Civil War, and he's going to become the new ruler. Stuff like that can happen, but still you're going to have the chance to fight those same Roman wars. So when we start in 107 BC, it's the war that Marius fought against Jeruthka in Numidia, and that's where we're going to start. And we do this basically to help new players out and people like me that haven't played the game, or let's say you haven't played the game in 5 years, you're going to get assimilated with some of the stuff. What we're going to be doing here is stratagems, recruiting, movement, combat, supply, and then the stratagem recovery. That's all we're doing. And this scenario only takes place from, and I have this all written down in my book, when you start the scenario, it'll take place from here to here. And that's it. You can't go anywhere else. You can't do anything else. And the only recruiting you can do is from the pieces that you actually lose. So there's none of this other recruiting going on. It's basically just get you used to moving in combat. And then we have the rule with King Boetius here, who helped his, I believe it was his son-in-law, Jeruthka. So there's a special rule for that. Every time it's the Numidian's turn, he's going to roll one die and see if King Boetius comes in. And it's basically these two troops and King Boetius himself. And then, remember, this is a 4-player game. And the way I got it worked out, and it should even out at the end, is one player is the Roman player 1. You can call him the loyal player. It's kind of interchangeable between the two Roman players, but one will be specified as Roman player 1. Right now you can call him the loyal. And Roman player 2, you can call him the rebel. Player 1 is in charge here in Africa with Marius. The two barbarian players, one is the barbarian player west, and one is the barbarian player east. And that is divided on the Roman Civil War map at the 4,000 hexes. Okay, 4,000 hexes. And you can find it on the map, and it goes right where the Balkan area is. Everything to the west of that is barbarian player west. Everything to the east of that, the barbarian player east controls. And they will gain victory points for your armies that you're controlling. And the goal of this game is Marius and Sulla have to fight this war until Jeruthka dies. That's their goal. And again, taking cities, I believe right now I'm starting them at 2 points. So if they can say take Cirta, it's 2 points. If Jeruthka can take these Roman cities, it's 2 points. And then you get points for winning battles. So that's just this point structure right now that'll be added to your victory point total. And let's start the scenario. Now also I must say, I'm going to go over this step by step. And I've been talking to a couple guys on Board Game Geek, and they've really been helping me out with some questions I have. So they've been helping me along, making sure I do it right. But if there's still stuff that you see in the video that I'm not doing right, please. So we start with, now of course we have all our sheets here that help us run down the sequence of play. We don't do the events, and we do the stratagem pick. Now, as far as the stratagems go, this is one of the questions I kept, the guys were helping me from Game Board Geek. But when we start the scenario, there is only one military stratagem ready in the ready box for the Roman and Jeruthka. So even though this is the strategy phase, the stratagem pick phase, we don't really do that on turn 1. So I'll talk more about it on turn 2. Marius is not a supreme leader, but he is in overall command of this. Sulla is his second in command right there. I put him in the city of Utica with a legion and under the civis unit, and I figured we can recruit losses here while we try to go after Cirta. So you first claim what force is going to be moving, and you can split this force up any way you want. And I believe you don't need the leader to move the force. Units can move on their own too, so you can split this up. But we want to move this force. So the first thing we do is we go to the march table and see if they're able to move. And Marius is going to expend his one military stratagem that he has for the march table. That just helps you not get jacked up. But you can still lose troops. But here we go. This is the march table. And let's roll. Now we're using cross country. So whatever route you're using, this is what you roll on. And he rolled a 1. And 1 says you cannot move. That's a no march. However, he played the stratagem that negates that he can move. So he starts to move out. Now, what we're going to do here, and I don't know if this is the best move, I'm just going to do it. He's going to go ahead and spend one stratagem that he has, and he's going to expend it. It goes back in the expended box, and that allows him to do an interception. He's going to take one of these auxiliary units just to see if he can stop the Roman force from moving into his city and getting in a battle right now. So he wants to take this and intercept. Now, according to the rules, and I asked the guys that are helping me with the game on Game Board Geek, it does not need a march table to do it. So he intercepts. Now, once you enter a hex with an enemy unit, you have to stop. So Marius stops on that interception. And that's it. Marius cannot move any further. Now, in order to be intercepted, you have to be adjacent to a force. Like, you couldn't intercept Marius if he moved way over here. It has to be adjacent to the force. So he did. He's intercepted. And that is the end of Marius' turn. Now, if Marius had another stratagem, he could force march and move again. But he does not. Everybody knows that. Everybody's used their stratagem. So, it is the battle turn. After movement, right? Let me check. It's movement. Yeah, we don't use tribute, and we go to combat. Combat is done. It benefits you to have all kinds of mixed units in your army, the way this battle system works, which is cool because that's what you should have. So the first round of the battle, or the first thing we do, is we decide who has tactical advantage. You can play stratagems. Well, nobody has anymore. But Marius has a tactical rating of 2, and there's no leader here. So you get to add 2 to the red Roman dice. The higher one has tactical advantage. And the Romans get tactical advantage. What that means is they get to shoot, and then this person will die, and they don't get to shoot back. In other words, they shoot, and all losses are taken off first. But in the first round, the only things that can attack are your missile units. So we have 8 Roman units attacking this Numidian. The combat table, you're going to use 8 factors. Here we go. And he got a 3 at 8 factors, 5 through 9, and it's 0. Nothing happened. He gets to shoot back. He's on the 10 table. They rolled a 5. And it says you lose 2 factors. Now, since the Romans only are a strength of the 4, they have to lose 1. So they actually killed a Roman unit. One things to note here. One, I know my camera is sideways. Give it another minute or 2 and I figure it out. Realize it is. Second, when the Numidian had killed a Roman unit, you don't have to pick the units that just shot. You can pick anything out of the entire Roman force, but since these are the cheapest, and since you have 2 auxiliary units, I'm going to take one of those off. I'd rather not take a legion off yet. Now, next battle is the heavy units. Heavy infantry units get to fight. Now, he don't have any, and the Romans have 3 legions, and you get to double the heavy infantry. So it's 10, 20, 30 forces, 30 strength points attacking that. We roll, and it's a 6 at 30. They have to lose 5 strength points, and since you only have 1, it's done. That battle is concluded, and now we see, first of all, depending on how much you lost, we'll decide what type of battle was, if it was major, minor, or a skirmish. Now, you have to have a couple things happen to even for it to be a victory. One is you have to have double the enemy had to lose double more than what you lost. So the Numidians lost 10 strength, the Romans lost 4, so they are double. But also, the enemy has to lose at least 25% of their losses, because the battles only go 3 rounds and then you stop. And since they did lose all their forces, it is a victory for the Romans. And the victory means... Now first we'll decide what type of victory it is. 1, if it's 20 or more strength points that the enemy lost, it's a major victory. If it's between 5 and 19 strength points, it's a minor victory, and less than 5, it has to be 0 through 4, it's a skirmish. So, they lost 10. Therefore, it is a minor victory for Marius. The player 1, loyal Roman player, gets, for a minor victory, 3 points. Okay, a major victory is 5, a minor is 3, a skirmish is 1. Now, as far as stratagems go, now those are my own rules, because remember, I'm keeping track of victory points because of the 4 people. But in the real rules, they don't keep track of victory points, they keep track of stratagems. So in our game, winning a minor victory allows Marius to now pick a stratagem from his expended pile that he can now use in his turn. And then Jeruthka has to lose 1. Well, we know Jeruthka only had 1 and he used it. So now, as a Numidian player, I don't think I'd really care about that, because what I wanted to do is stop the Romans from getting here and allow me some maneuverability. Maneuverability to go after a Roman city. So, next thing we do is the supply. Now, at the end of the turn, since the Romans have a supply unit with them, they're automatically in supply. So they're good. This unit being inside the city, you're automatically in supply. So they're good. And then Capeo and his forces, same thing. Even though they're not allowed to move in this game, just letting you know, if they're in the city, they're in supply. And then the last thing is the stratagem recovery. Now, all of these are now moved from the expended into the available box. And that concludes the Roman turn. It is now Jeruthka's turn. Now Jeruthka, of course, everything's been expended. So at the start of his turn, it is the stratagem pick. Now he has none in his available box, so he doesn't pick. Next, it is the recruiting segment, and now to recruit you have to have a political stratagem, and he don't. And then it goes to the movement. So I think what I would really like to do as Jaruthka, yeah, I'm going to leave the auxiliary with this auxiliary. And I'm going to take Jaruthka and I'm going to want to move that force. Now we have to roll on the march table, and I don't have a stratagem, so let's see what happens. And he gets a 2 on the march table. And he's using cross country, so it is a move, but he has to scatter. If the force ends its movement in a city hex, treat as march. Oh, he is going to end in a city hex, so he is going to that city. Now you can only move as fast as your slowest force, and it's the elephants that can move 3, so he gets there. And so he doesn't have to scatter, so he's there. So now it's combat. Now for the siege, we can decide to storm the city, do a formal siege, or blockade it. Now you can only do a formal siege if you have Roman legionnaires, because they were real good at sieges, obviously. So we either storm or we blockade. Now I've already done this and worked with this a while, and the blockade is definitely better than a storm. Now what I'm learning from the sieges is, now of course it took me this whole scenario, you'll see I didn't learn this till after, but in the combat phase, if you storm a city, the numbers do not count. So you can't eliminate them in a storm. The only thing you can do is make them check a discipline. To do that with the Romans, when I'm only attacking with 10 guys, I need to get a 1, 2, or 3. So most of the time, unless you have more than 20, it's a 1, 2, or 3, and then it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you have to roll that first. Then all he has to do is make a discipline check. On a discipline check for civis units, he's a recruit status. Now on a recruit status, the only thing that is going to make him get hurt is a fail. And to get a fail on a recruit table is a 1 or a 2. So he has to roll a 1 or a 2 and he'll get disrupted. And then in the assault phase, you have to roll again and you have to make him check again. So you have to get a 1, 2, or 3. And then he has to roll in the discipline class and he has to get a 1 or a 2 to fail and disrupt it again. If he's disrupted twice, he's eliminated. That is how much it takes for somebody to storm a city. It takes all those rolls, and it's rather lengthy, and it took a while. If you blockade it, all you're doing is making him roll one time, and he will roll on the friendly city besieged table, and if you make him roll that, if he gets a 6, then he's going to lose his guy. If he has more than the civis there, it would be a 5 or a 6, and then he's going to lose some guys. So the blockade to me was just better. Now for Romans, it gets a little bit better for you because you can actually do a formal siege. On a formal siege, you can actually get a breach. If you get a breach, then you can do a normal combat against him, not a siege combat where you only get 2 rounds. You'll get a normal combat, you can use the numbers, and everything works good for you. And all you need is a legion, but you have to get a 1. But you try to get a 1. If you fail, then you can still blockade the city or storm it. So that's what's nice about legionnaires doing it. You can actually try a formal siege and then try a blockade and storm. So if you have an engineer, you get a 1 or a 2 and you get to attack the city. So engineers are good for sieges. So the Romans are going to be better at a siege than just barbarians. They're going to be pretty weak. I think I'm just going to blockade it. So they're done. We're done. Supply check. He has to do a supply check. Now he's outside. He is outside. So he's in the open. Let's do a supply check. 3. And he's safe. That's what the S means. So he's good. These are in the city, so they're safe. That's it. We just finished one turn. We advance it to May. Back to the Romans. Now, at the end of your turn, you get to move all your stratagems for him into the available box. And the Romans already did that last turn, and now he's allowed to put some in the ready box. And because he's the owner of Rome, he's going to put one there. Because he has Utica, he's going to put a political there. So he has 2 in the ready box now. We picked our stratagems, and we have a recruit phase. So that's why I kept Sulla here. So Sulla's going to spend the 1 political. It is now expended, and we're going to recruit our auxiliary that we lost, and he'll go there. So Sulla is still inside Utica. Now I want to take Marius and move him. The question is, do I use my stratagem to move or not? And I think I will. Let's move. Here's the Roman roll. The march table, it's a 5. And we're moving cross country, and it's MF. And I think F is forced march. If a forced march is being performed, but it's not. So he's good. He made it. And now we're in the same hex. Now we conduct a combat. I'm thinking about moving Sulla's forces right now. Let me think about that a minute. I don't think I need to move Sulla. I'm going to go ahead and move this unit. So let's conduct our battle. First thing we do is find out tactical superiority. Here we go. And you can add 2 to both of them, so it's whatever they get. And it looks like the Romans win the tactical superiority. And they get to shoot first with 4 strength points. In that combat, it's a 2. And it is a check. So he has to roll on the discipline table. And it's for the entire force. So the entire force has to take a check. Remember, I had to make the Jeruthka leader. So, and he is a veteran. He was a wily opponent. He can take his class and put it on any one of these. Now, now the elephant's going to shoot next. And I have 2 of these, so I think I'm going to help protect the elephant. So he's going to be a veteran class now. And then these 2 will stay barbarian. So let's roll for the discipline check. And it's a 5. So on a 5, 1 is going to be a veteran. P means pass. And then the other ones are barbarians. And that means go berserk. So if it's during the missile phase, it's no effect. And that's what it was. So everybody's good. Now it's the Numidians' missile turn. And they have a 20. And they rolled a 5. And we got to lose 5 units. So we can pick any 5, and we're going to pick the auxiliary. And I made a mistake here. It was supposed to be a 5 strength point loss, and as you can see, auxiliaries are only 4. So I should have had to take off a legion. And again, you know, it gets a little confusing. I'm trying to run this whole thing myself, but I'll try to catch every mistake, and just so you know the way we're doing things. Now we go to the next round. Next round is heavy infantry, which is going to be the elephants and these guys. So it's 10, 20, 30 factors going to attack. And they rolled a 3 at 30. And it's another check. And we're going to do the same thing here, I think. We're going to go ahead and try to protect the elephants. But cavalry and the pursuit are doubled. Yeah, I'm going to protect him again. Let's roll. And it's a 6. And they all pass. So that check passed. Now it's the elephant's turn to shoot. And they have a 10. And they get a 6. Another mistake here was made. The elephants are heavy armed units. In the assault round, remember there's 3 rounds of combat: a missile round, all archers shoot, then the assault round, heavy armored units shoot, and the elephant's heavy armored, so he should have been doubled. And then in the pursuit round, everything gets to shoot, only your cavalry units are doubled. This is stupid. And the elephant with a 4 is a 0. No check, no nothing. Now we go to the last round, and it's the pursuit round. The pursuit round, everybody fights. So the Roman goes first, and it's 30 again on this. 6. And we have 5 factors are going to be lost, and he has to take them off now. You know, that's their only heavily armed unit. I'm going to go ahead and keep them. We're going to take off the Numidia, another horse archer. Because now we go into combat, and they get to double theirs, so it's 20, 30. So they're coming back with 30 on the Romans. And they got a 2. And it's a check. So the Romans have to make a check. And we can move the Imperator class to one of these. So we're going to go ahead and put the Imperator on the supply. I don't want to have supply issues right now. And let's roll for the Roman. And it's a 5 at our discipline check. And they're all veterans, so they pass, and the Imperator supply passes. So they all pass. That is the end of the battle. So now we calculate losses. So the Numidians lost 10 strength points. Romans lost 4, so that's twice as much. And then, is it 25% of their total force? So how much did they have? They had 10, 20, 30. Losing 10 is, yes, that's more than 25% of the force. Once again, it is a 5 to 10 strength points. I can now choose a stratagem. The winner can pick from his expended box, so he's going to take a military. And the loser loses from his ready box, which he don't have any. Another 3 points to Marius. Now I'm going to skip the rest of this war that happened here. But it went on for like 2 years, and there's 8 turns in a year, so it was like 16 turns, and we kept running back and forth, trying to pin down Jeruthka, because, you know, he's only going to fight a battle when he has to. And then the rules for King Boetius and the Mauritani, they came in. As you can see here, they were traveling down the road, and they made it all the way over and got in a fight, and still the Romans came out ahead. But it was close. It went around and around. And at the end, Jeruthka, he finally got besieged inside a city. So the Romans, being the legionnaires, they conducted formal sieges every turn, and then would either storm or blockade. And Jeruthka couldn't just sit there, because he couldn't recruit, because he was on a besieged city. And it also should be noted, during the stratagem phase, the only way for you to collect stratagems for the barbarian, since he don't control Rome, since he don't have a provincial major city, was he's a supreme leader. Jeruthka is a supreme leader for his side, therefore he can collect stratagems equal to his tactical rating, which was 2. So he got to collect 2 during his turns. And so he was just going to wither away by attrition. So he came out of the city with his last 2 units to fight, and the Romans eliminated the units, and therefore Jeruthka was defeated outside the city. But I did find a rule. You can recruit when your city is under siege and you're inside the city, but you have to roll a dice. On a 1, 2, or 3, you can go ahead and recruit. On a 4, 5, or 6, you cannot recruit. And that's another rule I didn't do. But anyways, so this rule ended. It went a couple years, and then we move on to another practice battle.